Welcome back to Inflection Point, where we cover everything that's succession and exit plan related. I'm Kevin Conrad, the CEO of the Retirement Planning Group. We're a dedicated, fee-only, 100% fiduciary firm that manages a little over $2.5 billion that falls underneath the Cetera family. And with me, again, I have my good buddy and co-host, Tom Saboto, who is Cetera's Corporate Development Director. So if you're listening to this, again, this podcast is tailor-made for advisors so that we can demystify this concept of building succession and exit plans. Again, how it works, the pitfalls and the things that you could be doing to set yourself up for future success.
That's right, Kevin. So what is the actual process to sell a firm in your mind? I mean, because you've actually been a seller, not just a buyer. So I think
I've done the selling and I've done the acquiring.
Yeah.
What I can share, and we see this again, as we've said before, we've talked to hundreds of firms and owners. The advisor community is a very, very, very sharp community. I mean, they know their numbers, they know investments, but when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, I think it can be a bit of an intimidating new thing because they've never done it. It's largely going to be the biggest transaction of their entire life. And what I want to do is make it less intimidating here today. So I'm going to liken the process to that of dating. The process of dating, I'm going to apply that to what the M&A process looks like. So much like dating, one way or another, it could be through an investment banker, it could be through an internal referral, it could be from somebody local in your community that you want to meet with. Most of the time it starts off with what? A coffee, a Zoom call, video call, and in that, it's very much a dating process.
Yeah.
You're learning about them, they're learning about you, you're determining whether or not you like each other. Do you want to have a second date? Then you maybe have a second date, and again, we're learning a little bit more about each other. So it's very much a fluid process, again, much like dating. And oftentimes you have to date a lot of people to find somebody that you want to get serious with.
Date a few people, let yourself be vulnerable,
Yep.
right? I mean, that's really important. And funny story, I was speaking with someone who was a potential seller, and I mentioned the word mergers and acquisitions, as to what I do. And the person said, "You mean murders and acquisitions?" And I said, "Why would you say that?" He said, "Well, because I think you're probably just going to murder me in the process and get rid of me." And I said, "Well, that's the furthest thing from this process, right? We're really going to go through this to get to know you. And as a seller, especially if it's to TRPG, to you, Kevin, we're not asking you to leave, right?
No, right.
We're saying stay as long as you would like, right? So we're not looking to murder you through the process. We're looking to merge and acquire and do what's right for the client always. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, the talent that comes with the transaction is important, and determining whether in that dating process, if there's a fit, that's really what we're going for. Now, the second step of this process is where we start signing NDAs. And NDA stands for non-disclosure agreement. That's basically the equivalent of now we're dating more seriously and exclusively with each other. Some advisors wonder, well, what happens in the NDA process? Why do we sign that? Well, it's really designed to protect the confidentiality of deeper conversations. So at that point, we start to swap information like balance sheets, profit and loss statements, demographic information about your firm. You start sharing a little bit more about the roles and the people at the firm. But it's done very confidentiality and it's where you're really in the dating process bearing all.
Well, it's building some trust, right? Because
without a doubt.
We want the seller to realize that we're serious about our interest in potentially buying your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're establishing trust through that process. We're not trying to be invasive in the process. This is a process where we just want to examine simple financial information about your business. It has nothing to do with us going deep into your life right? It's
Right.
about just examining quickly the financials to get to a rationalization of, is this the right?
Yeah. Do we want? So this is the next step. Do we
Yeah.
want to get married?
Do we want to go the next step?
Right. And so the
Right.
next step, the third step, is what's known as an LOI, or a letter of intent. And that is where the buyer is giving the seller a letter of intent. And in that letter of intent, it explains, based off of the due diligence that through the NDA process, the second step, where we're more exclusively dating, what is the valuation that we're going to apply to the firm? And then more importantly, like we've talked about in previous episodes, what are the terms? So in other words, it's valued at this. How is it going to get? How is that value going to be paid out, and over what sort of time, and over what sort of hurdles?
An LOI is really an estimation, right? Until we can get to the part of doing the real due diligence.
It is.
It's really saying, hey, we're at this place together. Here's what we think that this is worth to you and to us.
But
right?
make no mistake about it. When you're getting the LOI, when I'm presenting an LOI to somebody, I'm dropping down on a knee and giving them an engagement ring.
Sure.
I mean, that's what it is. It's like, I think we should get married here.
Yeah.
And here's what I think this could look like.
Right.
At that point, the fourth step really starts to fill in. And that is where, call it wedding planning. Okay. This is where we're talking about timing and real estate, and what is the process, what are the sort of processes would we keep? If you're getting wedding planning, are we going to move in together? What furniture are we going to keep at your house? And so we're doing an inventory of what would be attractive about your firm that we want to hold on to, what would be some things that you would need to adopt. And over that process, while that's going on, there's a purchase agreement being drafted and additional due diligence that's happening. And that's where we're getting to know each other even better.
Well, and that's where money is spent on both sides, right?
That's where the money starts. That's where
because we're going to recommend that the seller has an attorney, right? Don't do this yourself, right? Have an attorney so that they look through the documents and things that you're not typically accustomed to doing. And even if you are an attorney, go out and bring in a separate attorney so it separates you, right, from the emotional side of this to the legal side that somebody else should be looking at for you.
So we're doing the wedding planning, if you will, and getting all that lined out. And it's a bunch of legal agreements. And again, this is why we do the LOI first. So before we spend a bunch of money on both sides, we want to know that there's a really good chance we're going to get married here. And so that process goes along, and ultimately, and sometimes in that process, you get to meet the family too. It's not always, but other people at the firm start being introduced to the concept of, I'm thinking about doing a succession plan with this firm, and maybe sometimes you get to meet the family, meet key people in the organization that would be, instrumental coming forward. Now that doesn't always happen that way.
Well, it's kind of similar to you, like when you say getting married, it's like a second time, for people who get married for the second time, you're at that stage of, well, I maybe it'd be nice if I met your children. Right?
Yeah, right.
We're going to get married, right? Maybe I should meet your children too, because they're part of the family, and they're not part of the problem. They're part of the solution of what we need to do moving forward.
So once that purchase agreement is drafted and everybody's okay with it, and everybody's comfortable with it, and all the attorneys have blessed it, everybody signs the purchase agreement. Okay, and then once that's signed, this is where we've picked a date in the future where we hope to close. And that close date is really the wedding date where we actually get officially married. So we sign the purchase agreement, and then over the next 30 to 45 days, we're inviting guests to the wedding. The invitation of guests is the advisor that's selling. They're reaching out to clients and explaining, here's what's going on, and here is why I'm doing this. And they have to, part of that process, and it's an art form. We should do a whole podcast on that, frankly. It's an art form on how to approach and engage with clients so that they can maximize the number of the number of clients that want to move over in the transition. We typically see on the acquisitions we've done, 99% of the clients come with.
Very high, very high.
I've had 100% come with. And so that's about finding good cultural fit and a
Yeah.
good alignment with where they're going, and the right type of business models, and they're going to mirror with each other
Yeah.
or match with each
And
other.
then you may have a client who says, you know what, this is news to me. I'm not ready for this. I may not be ready to go along with this transition. But oftentimes, I know you've told me that a lot of times those clients,
They end up coming. They
they end up
over.
coming back,
Yeah.
right? Because again, in the transactions that you do at your company, TRPG, you're not chasing the advisor out the door. So that person is still there, which creates that comfort zone, for the client to say, well, okay, gee, I guess I didn't realize you're going to stick around for a year or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10.
Yeah, no, yeah. And so while that process is going on, that again, we're marching towards a wedding date. We're inviting clients to the wedding, so to speak. And then now that's either done through a positive consent or a negative consent. A positive consent means you need to get an actual 1-page document signed by the client to get permission to move over. Negative consents, if the practices are large enough that are being acquired, and if the state allows it, and if certain other legal requirements are checked off, you can do a negative consent where you just basically send out an email telling clients what's going to happen. We don't ever recommend that you just send an email and call it a day. We always coach the firms that have joined us. They still need to get on the phone with their clients and let them know what's going on.
Right.
But it doesn't require a signature. It's a negative consent. But we're all inviting them to the wedding.
Right.
And again, 99% of just much like a wedding in real life, those that you invite, 99% of the people end up showing up because they want to be there to celebrate.
Look, and if these have been your clients for a long time, the chances are you've actually gone to an event for their family, right?
Yeah.
When their children may have gotten married, you've
been there at their own wedding.
You've been there guiding them along the way in their whole financial future of getting to the point of their children getting married, right? So, again, bring them to the wedding, right? This is important.
So we have the close date, and that's the date when we officially close and all the clients' accounts start the transfer process or pick up and move. It depends on the custodial relationship, how that actually transacts. But through that whole process, I want to tie it right back around. You don't get married in 4 weeks. Rarely do you meet somebody and get married in 4 weeks.
Other than we've done some of those because of a health issue.
Health issues, but those are not a position you want to be in.
No, I think, look, on our side of the table, we would rather have more time, right? Because the lead time, the more time that we have, makes for a better transition
for the clients.
Seller, for clients,
and their staff too.
Right, and the staff.
The staff is huge.
Right.
So, but it's not uncommon for us to get a phone call on December the 1st and say, "Hey, I think I want to be out of the business by January the 1st."
Yeah.
And that's 30 days.
Right.
You're not planning a wedding in 30 days. If anybody really wants to know, if you want to do this right and you want to find the right home for your clients, your staff, then this is really could be a 6-month process, depending on, how many people you plan on interviewing when it comes to and looking for a home.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because, again, we harp on this, but you got to get out in front of it. Succession. There's 2 ways to do succession: planned or unplanned. Right? You don't want to be in the unplanned world of succession. So with that, Tom, I appreciate your color on, what we've seen. Hopefully, everybody, this breaks down the process of what it looks like for building a succession plan, what it looks like to exit out of the business. It's not a scary process, but I can tell you this: it is very much an involved process, and it's going to take you time. A lot of time, and it's time well worth investing in your practices. Again, probably one of the largest financial transactions you'll ever do in your entire life. And if you're concerned about how your clients and staff are taken care of beyond your working career, or how you monetize the business you spent years building, then I'd encourage you to subscribe to Inflection Point. Again, where we're going to cover everything that's related to succession and exit planning. Thanks for listening.